Our panel for today is Principles to Practices AI for Tomorrow. And today we have with us Mr. Abhishek Singh, Senior VP Engineering Development, Bharti Airtel, Mr. Sanjeev Kapoor, CEO Founder and CTO, True Minds, Mr. Vinay Solanki, Business Head, Nashtech Labs, Mr. Sandeep Agarwal, Head of Products, Platforms, Network Solutions and Services, TCS, Mr. Naren Kachru, Head Gen AI, India, Google, Ms. Shikha Srivastava, Director, C-Dot, Mr. Anuj Siddharth, Director, Marketing and Corporate Communications, MediaTek, and our moderator for today is Mr. Sumit Kapoor, Associate Partner, CEO Office, KPMG, India. Over to you, Sunit. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to the panelists. We had an opportunity to catch up a little earlier. A very interesting conversation. Today we are discussing ethical dimensions of AI. It's very fair to be scared of something we don't know. It's also very fair to be scared of something we don't understand. And therefore, if there are certain boundaries that are put together, for a nature of technology that you don't fully understand or don't fully know, it's always safer for people to adapt to newer technologies. And perhaps that should not come at cost of innovation, and it should not become too much of a burden on the organizations to comply on norms, rather than actually innovating and advancing in technology. And therefore, we would like to today, discuss on ethical dimensions of AI. I will request my panelists to go round table and give their thoughts very, very quickly, and have a few insights from their institutional perspective as well as from wider industry point of view, and then we may have some questions for you. So Anuj, maybe start with you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you to set the perspective here. Yes, as we were interacting before, we entered the room, right? Certainly, AI is the buzzword we all know today, and it is certainly shaping up our lives. As we talk about the use cases of AI. Essentially, from the technology point of view, every technology comes with its advantages and disadvantages as well. So, I would say that we should be evaluating the best practices for everyone in our life cases, right? The use cases of AI is what I feel are actually shaping up a lot of technological advantages. I'll just take a very simple example. Back in the day when we used to do our maths, right, and there were no calculators, right, and when the calculators were born, right, people used to think, right, that what will happen, and how, the dependency would be on calculators and all, right? But eventually with the time frame, the calculators were also helping us in reaching out to more tough calculations and all, right? So in a similar manner, I would say all the technology which is available today, right, has its advantages in the sense that, if at all we are able to use it rightfully, we are able to train the technology rightfully, it has a lot of advantages. So at MediaTek, from a MediaTek perspective, I would say that MediaTek has been always at the forefront of technology. We power more than 2 billion devices, which is a gamut of smartphones to smart devices and all. And AI is today a part of all our technologies. Smartphone is a classic example, I would say here. Yes, and how we are proceeding with that, I think I can share more ideas there, right? Because AI from MediaTek point of view, we are using in our smartphones, we are using in our smart cars, we are using, there are a lot of interesting devices, powered by MediaTek today, wherein how AI is shaping up. And I can add more of the details, but I believe, AI is certainly there as, and we certainly see it today and tomorrow. But if at all it is being used in a rightful manner, yeah.
Technology is not with us, and neither are many people. Sandeep, maybe hear from you now.
Okay, so warm good morning to all delegates, panel speakers. Welcome to this IMC session on ethical AI. This topic is of immense importance to the whole world. It is like what my colleague Anuj also mentioned, when machines started coming in 1950s, 60s, calculator, and before that some other machines. computers, and so on. So as with every technology, new technology, there is an element of surprise, apprehension, trust. Now, if you see, a global AI movement is increasing, and this is of high significance for India because India has one of the largest consumer bases, largest young population. We are seeing many lakhs of people working in tech industry in India, and we see that there will be more than 10,000 deep tech startups working in the AI ML area in the coming years. So the volume at which the country is going to witness this usage versus the development, everything is there in India today. The ingredients are there. Government of India and Prime Minister Modi ji has been talking about the importance of regulatory frameworks, importance about ethical framework. Prime Minister talked about it in the day before yesterday's session. There has been talks from the RBI governor also in terms of how the ethical AI practices would come in. So if I look at it, one of the first things which we need to do is putting up some policies, procedures, frameworks around the usage of ethical AI. Because unless there are policy frameworks, India being such a large country, it becomes very difficult to figure out what is happening. There are certain guidelines being put by United Nations and other organizations like ITUT, GSMA and many other organizations which are playing their part in the standardization part as well. Second part is that trust. Now, if you look at what I said earlier, 1960s, 1780s, when computer was being introduced or calculators were introduced, everybody was apprehensive. So as with any new technology, trust is the main aspect. It takes years to build a trust and seconds or minutes for the trust to dissolve. We are talking about so many wonderful use cases with AI. One of the most prominent, everybody knows, is smart cars, self-driving cars. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't introduce new technologies. You will definitely introduce new technologies, but trust building takes time. Now, if somebody says that I will adopt AI related applications overnight, that is a fallacy. If you see software industry testing, we say that software can never be 100% tested because there are infinite permutations of data and the test scenarios. Same goes with AI, that trust will take time. Any organization which is adopting, they have to have patience. It's not about just overnight change of manpower, that I will reduce cost by with AI. It shouldn't be that way. Another very important aspect is education. India being home to 1.4 billion people and aspirations that every human person will have AI in his hand. That is a dangerous thing. Like when you see about mutual funds, stock market, in fact, smoking, others, there are advisories. So government and other companies are saying, can there be advisory? Can there be markings on AI generated content? Can there be markings? So in general, people have to be trained, educated. There has been talk about AI safety institutions being created by Government of India. Similarly, there are other initiatives which government needs to take, which people need to be taken as part of responsible AI. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep, for an interesting perspective. I completely agree with you. Look, it's a community thing, it's a stakeholder thing, it's an ecosystem thing. Everybody needs to come together in this play of having the responsible and ethical AI, but the right questions have to be asked. And who else, other than Google or Naren, to answer some of the questions as someone who's leading the change, when it comes to the AI game. Naren, just throw some light on, how do you build trust? And we discussed about, when Nikola Tesla first came up with with electricity and were experimenting on electricity, people called him a witch. Right? So is it witchcraft, the Gen AI, or is it something that we can understand?
First of all, good morning. My name is Naren. I represent Google. How many of you have heard about Google? Show of hands, please. A few did not raise. So there are a few who didn't raise their hands. So I just wanted to see if everybody is awake. Now they have. So some of the things that Sandeep mentioned, Google is front and center on on AI. We have been an AI company. I think 12 years back, our CEO said that Google is going to be an AI first company. So we have AI infused pretty much in every one of our product lines. Some of those products that you use every day, Gmail, Maps, YouTube, hopefully, for the right reasons, for education purposes, not watching stand-up comedy. But, so AI is central to us. And back to your question, Sumit, we are thinking about the ethical consideration. So let me tell you one thing before I get to the trust and the ethical considerations of AI. What we are witnessing right now with generative AI, I think is supremely underhyped. I'm going to make that statement. I know it's going to be a little bit controversial. Some of you feel that it's overhyped. But fortunately for me, I have front row seats to witness some of the innovation that is happening in Google research and also innovation that's happening outside of Google. And the ability now to have human-like intelligence in systems is a seminal moment for us, not only in the history of technology, but I think in the history of mankind. So if you look at the evolution of human beings from, whenever they evolved to now, there have been a few moments, and you can count them probably, the invention of, the ability to regulate fire, steam engines, electricity, Sumit, that you mentioned, computers, mobile, internet. But I think this moment that we are witnessing right now, very early days still, but the moment that we are witnessing right now for systems to have human-like comprehension, human-like understanding, to be able to plug these systems into human workflows, like decision workflows, is going to be extremely transformative. I am a supreme believer of this, not because I get paid for it, but truly, I mean, the work that we are seeing is impressive. And Google has really been thinking about this from an ethical perspective for many, many years. Many years back, we set up what we now call AI principles. It's a white paper that's available. You can use your favorite search engine, which I hope is Google, to search for AI principles of Google. And basically, there are 7 principles of everything that Sandeep mentioned on how do we build trust, that these systems have been trained on data that's not going to be rooted in bias, that's not going to be discriminative, that's not going to be harmful for the human race. So there's a lot of seminal work that's happening there. I will not read through, I'll not bore you with the details of all 7 AI principles that we uphold, but a couple of things that are supremely important. And I think as us who are building foundational tech on generative AI, and for you who are in, either students or in organizations who are going to consume that tech from us, I think 2 or 3 things are supremely important to know. One is that I think, broadly, if tech that we're building, if it's not for common good through AI, then I think we should not do it, right? So I think the more important thing for us is to see whether what we are building through this intervention, is it for common good? And maybe, in a subsequent question, Sumit, I'll talk about that and, why we should put people at the center. Who is it solving for? Is it a student that we are solving for? Is it, some tribal woman in Chhattisgarh who wants to start a, handicraft business? Is that who we are solving for? Or are we just, solving it for the fun of it? So I think social good is important, trust is important, data privacy security. I think Government of India is coming out with a lot of laws and regulations around the DPDP Act and everything else. So I think, that is seminal, but I think for us to build trust, and a lot of people give us a little bit of heat with Google that, you're a little bit late in the game. There was a smaller startup who started as not-for-profit. Anybody know who I'm talking about? I don't want to name them, they're our competitors. But ChatGPT, OpenAI came with generative AI for the consumer much before we did. And the roots of OpenAI's work is founded in a research paper that was written by Google Research called the Transformers paper. I don't know if any of you are aware of that. So in ChatGPT, the T stands for Transformers, which was a paper that was written by Google. The reason why it was important for Google, and we still got it wrong in our first pass, to take a step back and think deeply about it, is because fundamentally we are not, a not-for-profit small startup that can get away with it, right? The smallest mistake that Google does affects trust of 1 billion people. So we have 9 services in Google that are used by more than 1 billion people every day. Services like Maps, GPay, email, YouTube, and others, right? 9 such services. So for us to get trust, safety, and ethical considerations of AI right was supremely important. And we can delve a little bit deeper into it later, but we're doing some seminal work on that. And I would encourage for you in your organizations to look at that AI principles paper that we have published and see if you can adopt some of it, because we'll only give you foundational layers. You'll build on top of it if you can continue to use the same principles as you're building your stack.
Thank you so much, Naren. It's so nice to hear from someone who has actually building the foundational or the core elements of artificial intelligence that the people will be using. And also glad to hear about the trust, the ethical aspects of AI that you are putting into the foundational layer itself. There's a spin-off conversation there which we can have later perhaps. Is scale slowing you down?
No, not true. We don't operate like that within Google. We operate as smaller startups within a larger company, and that's how we are organized with Alphabet and everything else underneath of it. The scale is not slowing us down. The responsibility which we have to cater to billions of users who trust us every day puts additional impetus on us to do the right thing. You have trusted us, for example, and use, how many of you use Google Photos to save everybody? So the importance for us, the consideration for us is how do we make sure that, as AI becomes prevalent, we do not use your personal data to train our foundation models and stuff like that, right? So those considerations are ones where we have to sometimes take a step back and do the right thing, not just do it fast and do it in a way that may not be, truly in the boundaries of ethics. So I think that's what.
No, thanks, Naren. Thanks for that, wonderful insight. Shikha, ma'am, please, your perspective on that.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shikha Srivastav, Director and Board Member of CDOT. You must have heard about CDOT, which is Center for Development of Telematics. It is the premier telecom R&D center of the Government of India. And here we are also working in artificial intelligence. In fact, one of our projects called the Astra has been very, very popular in India because we have actually gone through, we have an algorithm which has actually done a round of AI for images to the range of 35 million in one go. And we have detected a fraud in the country in telecom sector. And because of that, a lot of people have actually benefited because all these fraudsters' mobile connections have been disconnected. So as it has brought down all those frauds that were happening in areas like Jamtara and all. People were buying SIMs in thousands. And now that has come down because of the CDOT's this thing. So this particular algorithm, this project has been awarded this year in AI for innovation in multiple forums, including Northeast, AGBA and all. And apart from this, we in computer vision, we are doing a lot, AI in cybersecurity as well as natural language processing. CDOT has worked a lot. So that was just a brief introduction about CDOT, just in case you don't know what we were doing in this area. And now, when I come to ethics, I think if I see the AI products right now, the business and ethics are not going hand in hand. Even our data, like we are made to accept terms and agree. Many people accept all the terms and conditions without even reading them. And there it is clearly written that whatever data you are sharing with us can be passed on to anyone. So all these type of things probably need to be brought out in black and white and bold so that people know what is the cost of using this application. And ethics is all about transparency, equality, safety of the person, and of course fairness, bias, and all that. I believe you know all the pillars of ethics. So probably right now what is happening is business is taking the lead and ethics is following. And we would like to change that. So we can talk about that later, but that is my perspective on AI ethics.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks for sharing that that valuable input. I fully agree. You know, we were discussing earlier. There has to be AI labeling. You know, in a way, people should clearly understand what they're getting into. Each time and every time that you write a prompt, you know, or you request, you know, Gen AI to generate something, and you give certain information out, you know, that information is out there. And unless, of course, you take measures to remove that information, and of course that those options are available, but still, you know, you are passing on your information, which is very, very valuable, and you should fully understand, you know, as a consumer on the other side. Abhishek, you know, your perspective from a telco, how are you dealing with it?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I am Abhishek from Airtel. First of all, I would like to say that I agree with most of the comments of my colleagues, right? That all is absolutely fair. But see, AI has been here for a while. It has been talked upon more because it has become very fascinating. The paper which Naren just referred, it's not new. People who have been working on AI, at least people who have been working well on AI, they have been referring to such principles and creating such ethical principles for their own organizations for a long while now. Now that AI has become generative, it is bound to generate something which will offend somebody. So we have to be more careful now than ever. There are use cases which some of my colleagues referred, where in case we are not fair, in case we are not ethical, it can lead to major problems. Now, if you think of Airtel as a telco, we've been doing this for a while in different use cases and different scenarios. The common good part that some of my colleagues referred, right? The fraud detection, the spam detection, some of you might be aware of. If not, I encourage you to visit our pavilion. But the point I'm trying to make is that one, it starts from the very beginning, because all AI is based on data. Are you collecting the right data? Is it with the right informed consent? And then are there enough privacy, enough fairness, enough bias controls around it so that we are able to make sure that there is fairness in the algorithm? And when you create a system, it's not the model giving an output, it's the system giving an output. See, there have to be checks and balances on either side of the model, that if the model hallucinates, your system doesn't have to hallucinate, right? The governance is a first-class citizen here. It's not an afterthought which comes in later that, okay, now we have created the model, let's think a little bit more about how we will put checks and balances. It has to be a part of the entire journey, right from data collection to the output of the system and measurement and feedback. If organizations like us, and we believe that we thoroughly follow not just the laws of the land in the letter, but in the spirit of it, we have to make sure that when we collect the data, analyze it, all our platforms, all our AI algorithms have the right variation. Fortunately for Airtel, we work at a scale where the variation, the variety is immense, and we are able to do that. But even for the small startups, we have to enable them to get the right anonymized data so that they are able to build such beautiful use cases which are for the common good and are able to help the country move ahead. At the end of the day, AI has to be customer first. AI is a way to solve problems. It's not AI for AI, right? As long as we keep ourselves, who are the customers, at the center, I believe that we'll always make the right choice, we'll always follow the right ethics, and we'll be able to get there. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Sir, you coming in from a startup mindset, please tell us a little bit more about how you are thinking about putting ethics. Does it really impede you in the pace at which you would like to go, or it becomes an accelerator for you, the larger AI? And of course, if there are ethical boundaries and foundations around it, how do you deal with it?
Hi, thanks Sumit, and good morning everybody. I am Sanjeev Kapoor from True Minds. So I believe AI and especially Gen AI could potentially be one of the most significant developments in recent times. Not only from technology perspective, but I think from the impact on the society at large. So we at True Minds focus on developing enterprise AI applications. How we apply AI for different use cases in the enterprises, and every day we come up with a unique use case which we never thought could be applicable. AI could be applicable. I just want to share. Recently, we came across an RFP from a Guruji in Uttar Pradesh. Now, we never thought, that Guruji has passed away 10 years ago, but he has a huge following across the world. We never thought that AI could be applicable to a Guruji in Uttar Pradesh. And the use case was he has thousands of videos, teachings, documents. And the use case was that if I search that, let's say I am very anxious today and how can I address that? It should, give you a very relevant clips of the videos. You don't have to watch half an hour. You just see that 5 minutes which addresses that issue, a particular teaching that can address that issue. Now, that is the potential of AI and Gen AI. And especially for being an entrepreneur, I think for SMEs, it is a great leveler. In a sense that, it provides, they have now access to tools for where they can easily generate, add content, images, videos, analysis, insights, which probably was, the prerogative of larger companies earlier. Now, as AI or Gen AI is getting, more and more embedded in our day-to-day decision making as well, I think it has a great impact on society. If there are any biases in the outcomes, they can, or prejudices, they can creep into the society slowly. So from that perspective, if it is not responsibly or ethically handled, it can have a lot of negative impact on the society at large in the long run. And since our focus is on enterprise AI and applications, so data privacy, security is definitely of prime importance there. So I think from that perspective, while it has transformative capabilities, it is equally important that we handle it responsibly so that we can take its benefits rather than, the negative impacts. I think you would have recently seen the news of Jeffrey Hinton, who got the Nobel Prize, and he left Google to focus on, the ethical aspects of the AI. So that shows how important this aspect is, as well as to the, progress we are making using AI.
While the joke is the Nobel Prize in Physics is given to somebody who's working on AI, but absolutely you're right. In the age of misinformation, in the age of deep fakes, in the age of Gen AI, where you can ask Gen AI to create anything and it will. The go, no-go areas have to be absolutely defined, and perhaps, entrepreneurs like you, new age organizations have to understand those boundaries to say, look, experimentative AI is something, but, as AI becomes mainstream, there clearly have to be boundaries around it. You need to know what are the areas to absolutely not go, because in a brink of a moment, it can literally start a war. Now, Vinay, you are the only person on this panel coming from a hardware perspective, and you've been stressing on that fact. How do you come into the ecosystem and enable the ethical dimensions of AI?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, before I answer this, I will just flip the question of Naren. He asked, how many of you know Google? I will ask, does anyone know about Nash, N-A-S-H? Most likely the answer is only me. But let me give you a perspective because so Nash is a 50-year-old company started in 71. We are present in 17 countries across 17 plants. Most of them are in India and then few in US and Europe. And we are like one of the leading ODM and OEM across multiple segments from aerospace, defense, automotive, banking, electrical, energy, and so on. And of late, like 12 years back, we started this company which I had, Nash Tech Lab, under the Nash Group, which basically focus on creating a lot of innovative products, including IoT devices. Okay, that includes camera, printers, kiosk, banking, ATM, and so on. And of late, like I'm in this area for AI and IoT for many years, and I was thinking that when you start using or thinking about AI, the first thing is where is the data coming from? Otherwise, it's garbage in and garbage out, right? And being ethical, being responsible and accountable for even an AI algorithm, they need to be ensured that the data is coming from the right source and the right type of input, right? And I think what I'm observing that while a lot of data comes from software systems like CRM or ERPs or your operational ecosystems or your tools and other things, IoT is becoming a very, very important source of data of late, right? Including the Alexa and Google for Home. If you speak in Google for Home, some word, actually Google sends you an email about an advertisement of the same word to counteract what Naren was saying. But basically it is somewhere trying to understand what I'm trying to figure out. But at the same time, I know that there is a way for them to not look at data individually, right? As a data privacy and data security, it is very important. But if I come back to IoT devices, I think two areas which are very important. One is the ecosystem adopting any type of device and coming on the network which is rogue in nature, because that can result in unethical behavior or it can impact the outcome of the solution to be built by AI. Second, you have heard of the recent issue with the pager in Israel, right? Now, pager is not even an IoT device. It's a simple device that does one-way communication. Now think and extrapolate that to the whole ecosystem of connected objects and devices around us, including your car or your home or your power grid or even your farms or a defense drone, right? That is supposed to monitor the border for India against its neighbor, but is actually getting hacked for some reason. So one of the area that is very important and which I think I'd like to add is second, first is should be zero trust security mechanism. Where you don't trust anything, you have to build your trust in the devices and hardware, which is giving the data into the algorithm or to the AI, and properly and ensure that it is monitored day in and day out, starting from the time it gets onboarded onto the system till the time it is actually active as a device. Like in my Airtel days, I used to sell M2M SIM cards to vehicle telematics solutions. That time, the use case was only very, very simple. I want to track my truck from point A to point B or my vehicle. Okay, but today it has changed completely. Today I don't want to track it, but I also want to give feedback to my driver through a system called as driver monitoring behavior. That also uses the driver images and processes that data and realize whether the driver is actually going to sleep or drowsy. Now again, what happens if that system gets either abused or hacked or actually incorrectly been adopted in a way that you make something which is not the desired behavior of the device. So I think if I want to summarize two things here, one is ethical responsible AI as a technology or as a concept is very, very crucial in today's date, right? Because we can't run away from AI. It is going to impact our life from the time you wake up in the morning till the time you sleep. You're going to touch multiple devices or multiple applications that uses AI, whether you're working or whether you're at your home. So two, I think as a user of these devices, it is important that we are also well aware. Like government keeps talking about a lot about frauds and scams, that be aware about this SMS, that be aware about this message or email. At the same time, as a user of this technology, we also will have to play a very important part, because there cannot be an ethical AI without an ethical human being. They both have to go hand in hand. I also want to say, shamelessly I'm promoting, but I've written a book on AI and IoT called as Confluence of AI and IoT. And I've spent considerable time in writing about data privacy and security, because I think what is happening across the world, it is something very, very relevant that we all start realizing that we can't run away from this technology, but we have to coexist with it in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay. While we're doing it, where can we find your book? Is it on Amazon? You can.
And it's on Amazon. It's called as Confluence of AI and IoT. The foreword is actually written by someone from Airtel as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. But very, very relevant points. Look, we all understand there are eyes and ears around us, and now we have got a mind, that can be used to actually leverage those eyes and ears and put information together, for the greater good of mankind, or perhaps not. So of course, the pertinent point around ethical dimensions of AI, responsible AI, trusted AI, which is being discussed in Davos. IMC has allowed us to give a voice to that discussion. It leaves us with one question, Sandeep, and for you. What are the challenges, when it comes to the AI development, right? And like you said, there has to be zero trust AI, rather, where you trust in God, everything else you must just check. So how do you do that, at the core of development? Because you have to obviously have pace of development. How do you balance the two?
So that is a very good question. And the basic point here is that ethics has to be ingrained in everybody. So if you look at a traditional software development life cycle, starting from the requirements, going to the software design, development, testing, the data being used, it has to be ingrained across. So ethics, as some colleagues have mentioned, is not an afterthought. So as I was saying earlier also, that when you start with traditional software development, it is all about looking at what is my end objective, how do I look at that end objective, who are my users. So the problem statement, if I look at, it's not just about India, it is about global market. There are localization related challenges. The way people will use an application in India, and a colleague mentioned about hacking into different systems. So the problem in India specifically is that there are more people involved in figuring out way around to using a system ethically. So there are two dimensions to developing a software. One is an ethical dimension, the straightforward. The other is putting enough guardrails around the system so that the system is used in an intended way and it is not worked around by finding different ways. But again, the bottom line is ethics has to be ingrained. The data which is being used, see, the biggest challenge that I foresee is that there is not enough data. There is no measurement today you can put that this data is 100% fail proof. So while we talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, this is a data hungry system. If you don't put the right data, the system will not give you right results. It will not give you, see, you cannot write infinite combinations into the data. So as other colleagues mentioned, you could start with some data assessment tools, you should start with some application assessment tools, and over a period of time, scoring has to be done that the application is trustworthy. And it's like when you buy something on internet, you have a 4-star rating, 3-star rating, 2-star rating. Something similar mechanisms need to be developed so that applications which are delivering good results, they get higher trust scores.
Thank you, Sandeep. So it's very clear. We need to sign a prenuptial with AI. We can't commit, all together. Well, thank you so much for that. Shikha, ma'am, let me come to you. You spoke about labeling or putting together, out there clearly, what are the implications of AI? But are there clearly implementable standards that we have, in India, or perhaps inspired globally, that can currently be used by the organizations?
Yes, in India we have this fairness assessment and rating by this rating of artificial intelligence. This has been a document released by the Telecom Engineering Center of under the DOT, Department of Telecommunication, and they have given various But actually, the thing is that the AI is so wide. So they have brought this document out for, I mean, they have very clearly written that this is for certain scenarios. And those scenarios are clearly mentioned, the metrics are mentioned, how to measure the bias index and the fairness score, that is also given. And they have also come up with the types of bias. You can all read this report. It's available on the TEC website, and you can. It will help you to assess your AI algorithms, and you can self-certify it or do some third-party audit. So you will come to know about. But the thing is, the main thing is that what comes out is that this is a continuous process, right from the data to the cleaning of the data, composition of the data. Like right now, there are so many people who are giving computer vision algorithms in open source, or they are bringing out some small applications, but they're using some freely available data sets, which might be a movie star data set. And then they're giving you applications which you think, I mean, they think that the consumer will run. And basically, so especially in India, we have seen that demography and regional differences in the facial features is very distinct from what is there in Europe and America. So when we did this computer vision algorithm, we had to do many modifications for Indian features. And right from the north and even in the southeast, northeast, as you know, the features are entirely different. So we had to redo the whole algorithm. So that way you have to first see that if I am using an algorithm, what is the data? People have to reveal the data set, the composition, the statistics of the composition, whether they have taken each and every race, caste, creed, religion, everything in that. And then there are certain protected attributes. So you have to see whether protected attribute means something which can, there are certain labels, like for example, it could be religion, it could be gender, it could be something like caste in India, and whether that is actually creating a bias on the outcome, because the data set itself is not proportionately composed to include all of these. So for a particular person or a woman, it might not give the correct result. And these become especially important if these are legal applications. These have legal implications, like especially those applications. It becomes very, very important because it can lead to your going to jail. So these things are very important, that whenever anyone is giving any algorithm, they have to give out the composition of the data set. And not only that, even the model, because you're using a pre-trained model. Now that pre-trained model is bringing a bias of its own. And then you have to see whether that bias is there or it has to be removed. So at every stage you have to basically, then when you're deploying, you have to see that, okay, is it in the relevant scenario, am I deploying this application? Or it is tuned for some other domain, and I'm applying it to some other domain without even going and changing or testing it there properly with all aspects. So these kinds of things, it has to be done at every stage of the AI pipeline. So that is one aspect. And the second thing is that as far as machine learning was concerned, or even LLMs were concerned, there were some standard procedures. So people used to know the entire process, how to basically come out with the algorithm. Everything was fixed. But and it was pretty much, all these fairness and ethics, they are all built around these ML and LLMs. But now we have a new entry, which is Gen AI. Now Gen AI is a total black box. People don't know what is the data they are using. People don't know what is the architecture, and basically whether, and there are many cases where errors have come out from Gen AI. Whereas in ML, even if you are doing a computer vision problem, you can go back. I mean, it is explainable also, where you can see that, okay, this outcome has come from these pixels. There are methods like gradient ascent and gradcamp, which can tell you, okay, this is my outcome, but how did I get it? Okay, from these pixels, I got this. And even for the language, we have got this class activation function, map, which can tell you, okay, this is my outcome, but how did I get it? It explains. But that is missing in Gen AI. It's a total black box. And there are so many people now, everyone is using ChatGPT, even for doing the projects, for writing speeches, for everything. I think now it has become, even students are using it now. And there are many cases in which ChatGPT has given wrong outputs. So in some instances, we have come to know that, okay, the training was probably not done in a proper manner. So ethics per se is missing in the Gen AI part, and probably the frameworks and guidelines are probably there for ML and LLMs. So this part also has to be basically taken care before people start using these things, or before they are launched. I don't know who can do this, but this needs to be done. And UN itself has also come up, they are rating the basically readiness of all the countries in the AI ethics index. And for India, they are doing basically for India, the process is going on. It has been initiated and the process of this rating is being done by them. So that's what I have to say that about these current, the present algorithms of AI which are there. So that is the status of the ethics measurement index for all of these. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing that to light. There is obviously a logical skepticism in what you say. Sanjeev sir, my question to you, then would be, there's a lot of push. There was a push earlier to say, okay, there has to be a data-based decision making. Now there has to be an AI-based decision making. While Shikha is suggesting that there's no clarity, you don't have the right view of what's coming out, what are the sources, what's the citation, that's being thrown out. How do you trust into that and make an AI-based decision?
Yeah, I think I agree with Shikha, that transparency and explainability is very important to build the trust. See, our mind, the logical reasoning is built in a way that we think that if this happens, then this, or, because of this. So it's built in a way that we can reason out the logic and trace the, and have a traceability. That is how our mind logically thinks. But AI ML is little different. It is basically, inherently built on statistical modeling and probability and those aspects. So I think building an explainability layer over your AI ML applications or models is one of the way to address that, and that is very rare and not generally applied, but that is very important, I think, to address that. There are different tools available, Lime, Shape. So probably one of the ways to build the explainability layer on top of it. Like one of the use case on the importance of transparency or explainability is we had developed an e-commerce platform. And in e-commerce, logistics, delivery, all that is very important. So we integrated with different logistics partners for that. Now they have, the logistics companies, they have huge database, and they did very well to develop an AI model on top of it, which can predict what is the probability of fraud of a particular order or probability of return. But what factors they are considering, or what is the contribution of different factors to that decision or result, that is not available to the user. So if, as an e-commerce provider, I know these are the factors underlying this decision, or what is the contribution, I can take a more informed decision whether I need to override that or take that in cognizance. So I think from that perspective, explainability, transparency is very important and should be taken care in the development life cycle.
Thank you so much, sir. So all in all, there has to be a fairness matrix that needs to be put together, or an explainability matrix that needs to be put together, for you to have adequate amount of trust in an AI-based decision. Vinay, how would edge intelligence enable AI in the future?
Yeah. So I think there are two areas of decision making, right? One is closer to the person who is using that system. One is, of course, where it is done on itself. So the decision making can be assistive in nature, can be independent in nature, or it can be actually where a decision maker who's sitting very close to the solution needs to take some action. A simple example, if I take, is surveillance in a smart city. If there is some issue happening, let's say a vandalism is happening in an area, and the law enforcement need to be informed immediately, there are two ways to do it, right? Either you run the AI in the cloud, where you capture the image or the video, you transfer that data over the internet somewhere where it is processed, let's say in a Google Cloud, and then there is an action supposed to be taken. If there is an action required to be taken by the local police department, they will be alerted or informed. Okay, simple example. But what is happening when people started realizing that I need to make decision more instantaneously, real time, and can I wait for the delay of the data getting transferred all the way to the cloud and then action coming back, especially if it is a heavy data. One area is that video surveillance, where edge AI plays a very important role. It means that in the camera or in the computer vision solution, if I ensure that the camera or that hardware or that gateway is able to run the algorithm locally and alert and make the decision. But that means also very risky from a point of view of the ethical part of it or responsible part of it. Because if the decision is made locally and the right biases, the right kind of parameters are not accounted for, because there is new data coming every day and I have to update my algorithm every time, right? It doesn't mean that what I have seen before I will see it again. I will actually see a lot of new things every time, right? So the behavior have to be understood and the decision to be made at the edge has to be done by that device instantaneously. And so that's why it is, I think two parts are important. Can I write algorithms which can run on a power constrained device or on a memory constrained device or on a compute constrained device, which is very, very important. If I give you a simple example of what happened in one of the casino where somebody was able to hack into a simple gateway inside a fish tank. The fish tank was connected on the Wi-Fi network in the casino's network, the same Wi-Fi that the casino was using, and they were able to hack the fish tank very easily in the router and then hack into the system of casino. It's a very big case study in the world. I think the important design consideration was ignored completely, that even if I am putting a device inside a fish tank just to monitor the health of the fish and the disbursement of the food to the fish, I need to take care that it is part of a larger ecosystem of multiple devices talking to each other. So I think edge AI is there. We all use that very actively. Like even the Alexa, Google Home or Siri, they do a lot of processing in the device. They don't always send your voice command back to the server to give you a feedback. They are making decisions locally at the same time. So they need to also be designed with that consideration that Shikha talked about at the same time. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's such an interesting topic, right? A lot of things have already been covered, right? But I would like to certainly add to what you said, right? I believe on-device LLMs, they are really playing a great role here. And that's when even at MediaTek also, we've also used Google Nano to develop a solution in device itself, be it, so lately launched MediaTek solution, which is our 5G solution, quite robust, you can do multinodal, applications on device, right? Again, so taking care of the security part there, right? For everyone to know that, right? Because there's so many interesting applications, powered by AI, right? Which can be done on device itself. Certainly, hackers and all, they have their ways to crack into any kind of applications, right? Because there's a lot of security, there's a lot of confidential data, which we all have to share, right? But I believe on device itself, like what you also mentioned, right? Some of the co-panelists also mentioned, I think that is certainly going to be a great help, right? In terms of securing the data. And with the kind of of course, it's also our responsibility to keep on enhancing the security level to it, right? Keep on, working towards it, right? To ensure, a lot of use cases, right? I'm sure, ma'am, you also shared about it, right? The ways things are happening, right, all around. But yes, I believe this could be the one interesting way, as a technology enabler, from a MediaTek point of view, that we are certainly working around it. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Anuj. Anuj, let me ask you a question, as you've already volunteered. There are human dimensions to ethics as well, right? When we are building an AI model or building an AI decision framework, we all want AI to do our jobs, but none of us want AI to take away our jobs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, firstly, no one can replace human beings, right? We all have, amazing brains here, right? But certainly we would want, our jobs to be done in a better manner. So that's how we are training, with the millions of applications, use cases, right, to these AIs, right? So as, our jobs can be done in a better manner for us, right? So yes, nevertheless, nobody would want that to happen today, right? And, every human being has its own value, which they always bring onto the table, but how to make things better for us is the certainly aim for all of us in life, right? So yes, some of the fellow members already talked about the issues, right, which are there. So yeah, we are always working towards that area, right, to train our AI modules, our AI languages and all, right? A lot of interesting things happening, right? Of course, the multi-languages in support which is available. I was really amazed to see this, right? That you ask a question in Hindi and tell them to answer back in, any other language, right? Such an interesting use case, right? In terms of application, in terms of use cases, certainly life is going to be better for us. So yes, because we are only training them. So I'm sure the way technology is enhancing, we will find ways to secure it also, and the amazing use cases which we all have covered today, be it in the field of education, agriculture, and so many so forth. So certainly, so of course, with MediaTek, we believe that a small chip, which is like a heart and a brain of a technology, with a lot of advancements which is happening today, is certainly going to be enhancing the lives of human beings. Thank you.
Thanks, Anuj. I think, in my understanding, it's like a wild horse currently, AI, right? It's all about domestication. If you do it right, it can be a chariot. Yeah. If you don't, we know where this is going. Abhishek, in the world of AI, when when providers are making the core models or the fundamental models for you, and you're building on top of it, when things go south, who's really responsible?
Fair question. I think this is something organizations and people have to grapple with continuously. One thing that I think everybody who is just listening to this would also infer, we are talking from hacking to fairness to bias, right? So one of the things that as organizations everybody needs to do, and I draw in from my Airtel experience here, is first define what ethics means for them. See, everybody is talking about their own personal experiences, but ethics can't be left to interpretation. It has to be something that is in the culture of the organization, which perhaps brings me to the second point, that we have to, as organizations, create awareness within the org and outside that how important ethics really are. As some of my colleagues said, right, that there has to be fairness, there has to be explainability, but eventually people are creating these algorithms, these models. We have to tell them that this is really important and they have to be aligned in the right way, right? And then the fairness and explainability and transparency that we are talking about, those need to be ingrained in the tooling and platforms. Again, you cannot just tell somebody that this is how you do it and rely on it. Data, right? We have been collating data since forever. Slowly, people started hacking into it. People started creating information security departments. CISO roles came up. AI has to eventually get to that state where there are accountable people within the organization who actually look after these ethics, evangelize them properly, make sure they get learned and responses from across the industry. And I think lastly, we also have to acknowledge a little bit, and you alluded to it in one of our earlier discussions, that see, we have to acknowledge we may not have all the answers. There would be missing things. This is a really evolving and new field. So we have to be prepared that when we don't know, when things go south, we remedy it well. We are transparent, we are answerable to our customers, to our organizations, to our people, and we make sure that we learn from it. We collaborate together as an industry with government agencies, and we then draw up those standards of ethics which we very rigorously follow, and as I said, be responsible for it.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. I think that's a very, very fair answer and a very balanced one. Which brings me back to you, Naren. And for the last question, being Google, such a large organization, handling such a large set of data, how do you put ethical considerations around gathering that data, making sure that general consumer who's trusting in you as an organization and sharing their data with you is not misused? You insinuated about not using Google Photos, which I'm glad you don't. But how do you largely do it?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, and I'll answer it. But before that, I just, I heard all my fellow panelists. Thank you very much. A lot of the beliefs that I had, some of them got reinforced today. I also would humbly state that some of the things that were said, I do not completely endorse and do not completely agree with, ma'am, some of your points around GenAI being a black box. We can discuss about that in a different forum. But how many of you are going to be consumers of, and I'll come to the Google question in just a second. I think this will lead a segue. How many of you are going to eventually be buyers or consumers of generative AI platforms? Either in your, predominantly the question is for business folks in the room. Are you going to have, buy generative AI, either token based buying or whatever? Most of you would, right? Most of you will eventually end up buying. What is the one question as buyers of generative AI or buyers of technology, buyers of platform, that you should ask your providers? And I'm taking a cue from a Bollywood movie called Khosla Ka Ghosla. And the question you should ask, kya party ho ki broker? Right? And I'll explain why I'm saying that. The elements of ethical considerations in AI are not only in one dimension of the service that you are buying. It runs across the stack. And what is that stack? The stack is foundationally the hardware layer on which all these models get trained and run and get predictions and inferencing. Then there is the layer of the software that sits on top of it. Then there is the model itself, either the large language model or a small language model like Nano, etc., right? That power those experiences. And then there is a set of applications that you build that use, either through API interventions or through whatever, this whole stack. The question is there, and that's what Google does really well. I mean, glad you asked me that question, Sumit. The ability for Google to have control and to be the only AI platform today in the country that has, in the world, that has a vertically integrated stack on AI, right from the hardware layer, which we manufacture for ourselves. We have a set of, we compete with NVIDIA. We have a hardware offering called TPUs or tensor processing units. We have our own platform that hosts the AI models, where you do everything from explainability, monitoring, grounding, building RAG architectures, etc., which is the Vertex AI platform. We have our own large language model, first-party research from Google, which is Gemini. So the ability for us to serve that entire stack and to build all of these first principles on AI ethics and AI first principles across all layers of the stack is important. Now look at some of our competitors, large tech companies masquerading as AI path breakers. They actually are not, they don't have some of these components first party from their own. They are distributors of technology. And as a result, the difference that happens is that with somebody like Google, you can ask us and we provide indemnification, for example, of generative AI to all our customers, indemnifying not only the output that is generated by the Gen AI model, but also the input data that is trained into the model. What that means is if somebody comes to, hypothetically, Airtel tomorrow and sues Airtel, कि यार ये पिक्चर जो आपने अपने वेबसाइट पे लगाई है AI generated marketing, you know, on some banner campaign or whatever, is not yours. And if it's an image that has a watermark synth ID that it's generated from Google's AI, we will come and indemnify Airtel against any lawsuits that they may face. Or if there is any lawsuit that says that, you know, the foundational model was trained, there is another Indian AI company which has been sued by another maps company. You have all heard the news, right? Where that maps company sued the other company to say you have actually taken our maps data and created your own maps out of it. Google gives you that indemnification even at the data layer. So how we are doing this in Google is a complete segregation of data that is used to foundationally train the model, and we do have a large amount of data set, both synthetically generated data and acquired data and generated data that we use to train our models, and our models are trained at very, very large scale. These are very large 400 odd billion parameter models. But in addition to that, we have a clear boundary and a clear segregation between user data, user identifiable data, which is, you know, the example that I gave on Google Photos, or any data, or even prompts that you enter into the system, right? Even those prompts are not used for training our foundational models. We give that as an undertaking, first party, across all the layers of the stack. So again, my submission to you as, you know, those in businesses, those who are going to adopt this technology, infuse it in those of your product managers here, or, you know, who have, you know, Gen AI interventions that are going to happen in your product lines, ask the question. Ask the question to your provider, party ho ki broker. And I think that will answer the question on, you know, who will provide that safety and security net to you across the layer of your AI infrastructure.
Thank you so much, Naren. While I'm neither the party nor the broker, I am the advisor.
The facilitator.
I am the advisor. And as an advisor, maybe in audience, anybody has a question. We have got many. We are massively out of time, so we'll take probably two. Sir.
My name is Manoj. Manoj, and I just want to ask a question about proving ROI in Gen AI use cases. What are the things that worked and didn't work?
See, I think there is no direct answer to that. If you see, Gen AI currently is being used in a lot of pilot projects. Any industry, any vertical you talk about, everybody is doing pilot. We are seeing chatbot as one of the most adopted use cases in Gen AI. We are seeing it is being used in education and knowledge management industry. So today I am a technician. I have to go through hundreds of pages of manual to find the right answer. Can Gen AI do it? So those are the knowledge-based use cases, I think, which are being used. An answer which takes half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours to find, you can get it in seconds. So there is definitely Gen AI use cases, ROI that we are seeing. But I think the killer app that we are talking, the other day I was reading that coding will become one of the most important Gen AI use cases in years to come. We don't know. But definitely, as with any industry, each industry will find its own unique use case, where they will find the ROI.
Thank you.
If I might just add, if I might just add, as of today, the amount of code generated by Gen AI exceeds the code that's generated by humans as of today. So just letting you know, like 60% of code generated in Google is AI generated. That's where this technology is going. On the ROI part, I have a funny bit and I have a serious bit. The funny bit was I was presenting in a similar forum in Delhi some time back, and somebody asked the same question, asked it in a little bit more direct way, ki iska paise, you know, per token pricing, how do we realize all of that? And I joked with that person that, you know, I didn't expect this question from a Delhi audience. The Bombay audience is concerned about cost. Delhi ke to dildar log hai, kharcha karo paisa. So that's the lighter part of it. But the more serious answer to it is, there are questions, and I think folks like KPMG and other Big Four consulting firms have large armies trying to decipher what are the right ROI use cases. But one of the most interesting things that is happening in generative AI specifically is that the cost of tokens is falling dramatically. Like, I have been in this job since February of this year. So just in whatever, 8-9 months that I've been in this job, the cost of models itself has fallen 400x, and the model performance has increased 100x. So any existing Moore's law that applied earlier on, economies of scale, and when that economies of scale will reach, etc., are all getting proven wrong, right? So my advice to you is, this technology is for real. It's extremely good. It's extremely powerful. Adopt it now. The ROI will come because the cost of this technology at scale is going radically down. For example, our Gemini Flash 1.5 model, just a couple of months back, we announced an 85% price cut on that model, 85%. So that is the kind of efficiencies that we are seeing coming out. Sorry.
Thank you.
But just to answer, like, I have seen a lot of HR tech companies. In fact, I'm advising few because I'm an angel investor also. They're using generative AI very beautifully for generating the job descriptions. And they're also doing the candidate matching with that, which is not, of course, Gen AI, but AI based matching. They are finding it very, very useful. In fact, they have invested whatever money they are already able to recover, because a lot of their target customers are finding it easy to generate the job description that they want, especially for mid to junior level people. Yeah.
See, we came up with a research paper just at the back of IMC as well, and it's widely available online. You can read it, and it clearly shows. But, sir, in simple Hindi, objective क्या है? आप AI से कुछ करना चाहते हैं कि AI यूज़ करके बेचना चाहते हैं? If you want to sell, there is an ROI. If you want to achieve something, ROI is, have you achieved it? Right? That's as simple. But in general terms, from our research point of view, we are seeing about 55% of the organizations that have widely adopted AI are implementing it at large scale, and in the range of about 10% is what their ROI is at that point, is current point in time, but it's a very nascent technology. So the scope is exponential, right? But at the end of the day, it goes back to the same question: what do you want to do with AI? I'm very sorry, I'm getting extremely cold looks from our organizers. Okay, well.
So my name is Ravinder Gandhi. My question is with respect to principles and practices of gathering data for AI. So now countries like China, they're enforcing the global brands to host data in their own country. So my first question is, should India also follow the same practice? Second question is, what are the pros and cons?
So let me answer from a telco perspective first. We already have that rule. Telcos cannot host data outside. And in my opinion, that's a fair rule, because at the end of the day, we are responsible to the citizens of the country. And when the data resides within the geolocation or the confines of the country, the applicability of the laws is wider, the applicability of the audits is wider. So in my opinion, at least as telcos, we are actually comfortable with that law, following it since a long while, and are happy to follow it in the future. AI, Gen AI, all the use cases keep coming in, that's okay.
Yeah, as you know, data is the new oil. So obviously India should also keep its oil with itself. So definitely we should have all the data here.
Any pros and cons, ma'am, that you see with it?
Pros are like legal cases, like if we want, especially for the law enforcement and all, I mean, I can tell from that point of view. Because if we want some data from some application which is there and hosted in the USA, it's very difficult to get. And for lawsuits and all, you need that data. So from that point of view, it's better to have your own data in your own country. And now people are doing data mining also, no? So the data is very important. So I think there is more pro rather than cons. That's my.
There is only one con, because you don't share, so you also do not get. So people who want to export and want to understand what kind of demographics they want to cater to, or what kind of ecosystem they want to cater to, they also have limited access to that data available. So it works both ways. But look, ma'am is right. You can't share your people of your nation with others. There are a lot of implications around it. I'm extremely sorry. We have concluded on the topic. I think there is logical skepticism around artificial intelligence. Of course, there are different perspectives. Was very glad to have a diverse set of views coming out of the panel. I hope some insights have been well received. If there are any other questions from the audience, our panelists are going to be here for another 5-7 minutes. Please do that. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much to the panelists as well. Very, very valuable insights coming out. Thank you. Thank you so much.